Before we tackle the question, what is the best note-taking app in 2025, I want to show you two numbers that are really interesting. Did you know that the current market size for note-taking apps is evaluated at $11 billion and there are more than 100 note-taking apps available? This was not always the case, and that's why I like to take you on a journey back to the time when you just had a handful of note-taking apps up to now, because going through the evolution of note-taking apps will give you the best understanding what's really the best note-taking app out there. And when I say note-taking app, I also mean PKM tools, personal knowledge management. So let's dive into this. The first evolution stage I'd consider started in 2003 with OneNote. That was the first note-taking app by Microsoft, and you can see the logo is pretty different than it's nowadays, right? But this was a revolution. We had paper notebooks, and that was the first time digital notes became available in a broader sense. And then in 2007, Apple came with Apple Notes, and you see this logo, it's amazing. I can't remember the times then. And then Evernote in 2008. These were essentially the only three note-taking apps for such a long time that we relied on. And Evernote became one of the strongest, as many of you know. But back then, those apps were very limited. They were desktop focused and just had basic synchronization features. It was sometimes a hassle to keep everything in sync. But then there was a shift in 2015. Where Apple launched their iOS 9, which gave Apple Notes a huge boost and increased the overall adoption of iPhone users to 80%, using Apple Notes as their go-to note-taking app. But this was just the beginning, because just a year later, they published the Apple Pencil. Suddenly, the iPad became a handwriting device. Of course, many tried it before, but Apple they implemented properly and worked out of the box. And not only with Apple Notes, but with many other note-taking apps that tried to gain market share in the past, but now their time has come with the Apple Pencil. So all these digital pens never had the low latency handwriting. That was the obstacle that Apple Pencil overcame, and you really had the feeling that you get instantly your handwriting into the device. And this was the second evolution stage, which was the rise of the digital handwriting note-taking apps. Especially GoodNotes, Notability, NoteShelf, and of course Apple Notes. OneNote and Evernote started to struggle to keep up with this evolution. Suddenly these note-taking apps became mobile first. We were able to carry around our digital notebooks with handwriting recognition and cloud synchronization in our workplaces. This was revolutionary. I remember very well the first time I bought the 2016 iPad Pro with the first Apple Pencil, using it in corporate, sitting in the meetings and writing project notes, and then being able to search my handwriting for the notes that I have taken. This was a game changer. Just being able to search through my handwritten notes improved my efficiency finding information so much that I thought I have to share it with the world. And that's where I went to YouTube and launched this channel that you're watching right now. In 2017, I published this video, Best Apps to Use with GoodNotes 4. It was the very first video. It got a lot of traction. Not many people knew how to combine the note-taking apps with other tools back then. And this was the birth of the paperless movement. There were so many handwriting note-taking apps out there, but those who survived up to date have been available even back then. So it was Notability, which was famous thanks to the audio recording feature. So it allowed me suddenly to record audio during the meeting and take my handwritten notes, and it synchronized the audio with the notes that I have taken. In 2017, this was mind-blowing. Today, everybody will laugh when I tell you, oh man, what a nice feature. GoodNotes was already a great note-taking app back then, but with the Apple Pencil integration, it became even better. And NoteShelf was something I really loved back then, because it allowed us to synchronize the handwritten notes that we take in this application with Evernote. So it just was sending, and it sounds so funny now, but it was able to send your handwritten notes as images to Evernote and keep it in sync. So when you updated these notes, it updated also the images in Evernote. The advantage was that I had handwritten notes with typed text combined in Evernote. Evernote was a very important note-taking app for me back then. as it was so good to search information, but also to scan PDF files and my invoice and so on into Evernote and find it later on. So I was obsessed with finding the best tools that helped me to resurface information that I lost on the way. So these 3 apps became really crucial moving forward. And this lasted a long time. So in the first 2 years of the paperless movement, I was helping thousands of professionals worldwide to adapt to an iPad and improve their digital note-taking capabilities. But the evolution didn't stop. Between 2018 and 2020, Notion and Rome Research became a thing. And I'm saying not here that, for example, Notion was launched much earlier, but when it gained popularity, it was this time. So having now searchable handwriting was a great thing. But Notion was an absolute game changer for me. I was suddenly able to create easily databases and interconnect them with each other. I was able to connect people with notes, and whenever I opened a person's item, I saw the interconnected things like the companies in the other database. That's something that developers and specialized applications had available as well. However, Notion made it available for the public to use. And this was a next step in knowledge management, because now I was able to properly structure my information while taking notes and building my centralized system for my productivity. Notion was a game changer back then. And then Rome Research came out, and I really remember the time when this appeared. I thought, what the heck? I decided to use Rome Research for at least 1 month, taking meeting notes only in Rome Research, because they introduced backlinking for the first time. So backlinking means that whenever I was taking notes and I mentioned another note, and later on, when I opened this mentioned note, I see the different mentions in all the other notes. So one example would be, I'm sitting in a meeting, I'm taking notes, and I'm talking to a specific team member. I write my notes and I just mention this person because the person is a note in this note-taking app. And once I did this for several weeks, and then I had a check-in with this person, all I needed to do was opening up the note about this person, and I saw all the references for all the notes that I have taken where this person was involved. And this realization was mind-blowing. Because now I was able to click through the conversations and found perfect context whenever I needed it. And that's just one person, but it was then interconnected with specific topics. So whenever I opened the topic, I saw the person involved in this topic. And that was a real eye-opener to me, how powerful backlinking will be. And this was also the moment when I realized if Evernote doesn't do anything, Evernote is gonna disappear very soon. More importantly, I saw the potential already. If Notion would adapt to this backlinking feature, it would just level Notion up to a complete different type of knowledge management system. So I published this video back then where I said Notion better than Rome Research, and in this video, it's still on this channel, I mentioned,
as Notion has much more to offer looking at the feature set compared to Rome Research, I think Notion could and certainly should work on implementing a better cross-linking experience between pages and databases.
And didn't take long for Notion to do that, probably not based on my video back then, but they did it. And it was a complete game changer, because now I was able to combine cross-connected databases and mentioning in my notes to have a real knowledge management system. And that was insane to my overall productivity when it comes to personal knowledge management. So up to this point, I hope you saw already the different evolutionary steps that this has taken. Maybe you made the step from a paper notebook to a handwriting note-taking app. Back then, you've been king because you were much more efficient storing and retrieving information by simply searching it. But the third evolution stage, the interconnected databases to have structured information and the backlinking to have dynamic connections between the nodes, this gave everybody an unfair advantage who started mastering this type of note-taking and personal knowledge management. I doubled down on teaching this on this channel too, and it didn't take long. Then a tool we all know, it's Obsidian. And Obsidian actually killed Rome Research because it made things not only the same way as Rome Research, but much better and for free. Plus the option that community-driven plugins were available that made it so much more customizable than Rome Research would ever be. So it was another game changer towards personal knowledge management and personalized knowledge management. So you were able to really build a tool the way that you need it. And Notion was doing this as well, but much more structured. So Obsidian, for example, introduced the knowledge graph. That's something that Notion never had. Whereas Notion had these amazing databases that you were able to build and leverage over time, and the collaboration features that Obsidian never had. Now we see Obsidian also introducing tables and things like that, but that's something we talk about in the end, where we see how everything evolves into the same mud. Let's move on to the fourth evolution stage. The rise of the digital whiteboards. From 2020 to 2021, I started to use more and more Miro as my whiteboarding app. It was the real-time board back then. It is again an application that was around for so many years, but then they rebranded it to Miro and became an amazing whiteboarding tool. And I used it cross-department wise in project work, explaining complicated problems. That was the go-to tool for me. And as you can see on the thumbnail, there are a lot of mind mapping tools in the back, something I didn't mention in this video yet. That was obviously another type of note-taking. I was using MindChat and MindMeister and all these tools because I needed to have my information visually. And there was always a disconnect between a tool that is text-based and then laying out my problems on a visual canvas. And Miro gave me the flexibility to throw everything on the board and move things freely around, whereas in mind maps it was very rigid and structured. And that's why I started using Miro more and more and actually making courses about it and taught this in the corporates too. 2021 was also the time when I quit my job and went all in with the paperless movement. Before we move on to the fifth evolution stage, I want to mention something very important that reshaped, that accelerated the publications of all these different tools. You see here already on the right, I was collecting all the apps that I mentioned in the video already, how many apps we already were able to choose from in 2020. Well, something else happened in 2020. It was COVID. COVID hit the world and changed and reshaped the way we work. From one day to another, we had to start work remotely with the team. This was insane. However, the team I was managing in corporate back then was already digital. I moved already everything digital. There was no paperwork left. And that's why we weren't affected. In fact, our team became one of the most efficient teams in the department because we were ready the moment this happened. And so many others had then to readjust and adapt to this change. And obviously, so many companies worldwide too. But as this pandemic hit and took longer than a few days or weeks, the whole world started to adapt, and we saw a pandemic-driven explosive growth in digital note-taking. It was an app explosion. So many people saw now the advantage of going digital and having everything shareable, collaboration features and so on. And this is one of the main reasons why we saw such a growth in applications that we can use in order to collaborate with the team. So it became essential that these tools have now collaboration features, cross-platform compatibility and many other things. COVID ended, but the way to work remotely didn't. So many companies have already changed everything according to this remote work and saw now the advantage actually to have access to what the people need to work on from any time and place in the world. And that also allowed now to hire people from different countries and many other things. So there's no going back. But what is now the fifth evolution stage? Well, you guessed it. It's AI. And I remember very well when I used MEM, I went to Twitter and I asked people, what do you use to organize your notes, folders or tags? And then I got a reply, neither. And this was Paco. This was the moment when I met Paco for the first time, and he was so aligned and had exactly the same journey behind that when it comes to productivity, especially for the personal knowledge management part. He went through all the apps and he ended up in MEM like I did. I was currently working on the ICOR methodology back then that describes a productivity system end to end, so that goes way beyond personal knowledge management and includes also project and task management. And Paco had similar concepts and workflows workflows that he concluded over time as a professional, building 4 businesses in 20 years and running them in parallel, managing over 70 people. And he came to the same conclusions for the concepts and workflows. That's where we merged our concepts and workflows to one comprehensive methodology that's now called the ICOR methodology. And an essential part of this methodology is, in a tool agnostic way, how professionals can take highly effective notes and manage their knowledge in the most efficient way possible. And he is now a co-founder of the paperless movement ever since. And we talked a lot about AI note-taking back then. We've been really hyped, especially about the contextual research and the serendipity that MEM allowed us to get. So this means the moment I started writing something, it showed up relevant notes that are related to this. No matter if I wrote this in English or in German, even if the notes are mixed, AI was able to retrieve the information I was looking for. And it was a game changer when it comes to this. We both believed now is the time where we might no longer need any structure inside the note-taking apps, which was not correct. Even AI needs structure in order to work effectively. And I made another video about this where I talked why AI isn't so efficient in these tools. If you are not setting them out in the right way, feel free to watch this after this one. But then ChatGPT came out and so many more improvements came out that MEM fall short, and many more note-taking apps started adapting AI in their tools. One of the first have been Notion, but many others tried to implement this as soon as possible. We saw especially the audio capturing tools like Tana and Reflect now were able to real-time transcribe your voice into text, and many other things appeared out of AI. But then in 2023, Paco met me in Germany, and I remember very well, we went hiking and he started to tell me about a complete new PKM tool. And the more he was telling me about it and he was testing it, the more excited I got. And this is the application that I personally consider now being the best note-taking app in 2025 among the hundreds that are out there. This being said, it's a very personal conclusion, but also hear me out as I will explain now, based on what you learned in this video so far, how I came to the conclusion. The app that I'm talking about, and those who follow the channel know, is Heptabase. Heptabase became really the all-in-one PKM tool. The developers took their time to see what's really working on the market. They were aware of all the things that were out there, and then not trying to just replicate these tools, but only take the best features. So they have a PKM tool that has a whiteboard. Skrintle was another tool that launched back then, and I was really excited when I saw Skrintle the first time, because I said, there we go, it's a whiteboard and I can take notes and I can start connecting notes, and that was mind-blowing. But then Heptabase came out and just went one step further, in fact several steps further. They not only provided a whiteboard, they already had backlinking, they even had already in place a Tana-like tagging system that allowed me to build databases on the fly while taking notes. The way to create notes was very similar to Notion, so they had all the formatting features that Notion had. And now in 2025, they also introduced AI, where we even get now the context of our whole knowledge base. And now they added also collaboration features that we have from Notion. So this is insane how much they did over the years. But even back then, I stopped using all the other note-taking apps and PKM tools and went all into Heptabase, because I saw the huge potential. I saw their vision. I saw not only the frequency, but also the quality of each iteration of their tool. And to date, I can very confidently say this is the go-to tool for me and for hundreds of our paperless movement members who are busy professionals, either running a business or being an employee in a corporate. It doesn't matter. They started to use and love Heptabase. Now, if you're watching this and say, man, what are you talking about? Obsidian, Tana, Notion, they can do so much more. And yes, they can. But the question really is, do you need all this that they can do more? Or is it just confusing and increasing anxiety as there are too many options, but none of them are so very well interconnected as they are in Heptabase? We at the paperless movement always try to kill our tool stack. And so far I haven't found any other note-taking app or PKM tool that could replace Heptabase for me. And even for the handwriting note-taking apps, they are working on a handwriting feature too. So the moment I publish this video, this is the application that I would recommend to anyone who is overwhelmed and fed up with the hundreds of tools out there and just want to get back to get work done and not overthink their PKM system, but still have all the evolution stages that I mentioned in this video in just one tool. And I think this is something where Heptabase is really underrated and underestimated. I'm sure if they keep doing what they do, they will rise to great popularity in no time. And that's not so easy nowadays with all the options that we have out there. Usually we say the all-in-one solutions, they are not good enough because they do a bit of everything and nothing good. But that's why Heptabase shines. They do it all, but they do it all very well because they reduce the individual features to the core and make it work. And that's the big difference. Nothing feels buggy or clunky or anything like that. So if you want to learn more about Heptabase, I have a whole channel where I talk about Heptabase. We have a Heptabase mastery course as well, where I show step by step how to use it. But that's not what this video is about. Here we go. I tried to make a little poster to represent this evolution that I was showing to you. If you're interested to get the PDF, but also this slide deck that I showed in the video, that's available to our members inside the Paperless Movement membership. So let's quickly talk about the current state of digital note-taking. We are in 2025 and we have a thriving ecosystem of hundreds of specialized apps. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's 11 billion of the current market size, but the projected market size by 2029, so just 4 years from now, is 23 billion with an annual growth rate of 21%. And we have 41 note-taking apps and PKM tools that are reviewed and mentioned on a regular basis. Doesn't matter on YouTube or in articles and so on. And obviously I didn't mention all of them. There are so many more. And if there's a specific one that you think is missing here or that you think is the best note-taking app 2025, go to the comments below and let us know. So doing this research, I discovered the following key trends going from 2016 to 2025. Where we started with desktop-only applications like OneNote, Evernote, Apple Notes back then, everything moved towards mobile first. We're always on the go and we won't need to have access to our notes the moment we need them. Then we saw a shift in the second evolution stage from simple text typing to multimedia and handwriting note-taking apps where we can drag in images, even videos, but more importantly, being able to handwrite and make handwriting searchable or converted into typed text. And we saw also the shift during COVID from individual use to team collaboration, which then became more important as also from basic synchronization on a local device to real-time collaboration with the team. And then 2021, 2022, where AI started to emerge more and more, we saw now an AI-powered automation that starts to organize your notes more and more and manages your knowledge base. We are not there yet, but who knows what will come. So if you want to see another update a year from now, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. Then we also see a lot more tools trying to become the all-in-one workspace, especially the all-in-one PKM tools. In my opinion, this is Heptabase, but again, we still need companion apps to make us productive overall. Neither Paco nor I believe that there will be only just one application in the future that you need to use to run the business, to manage your tasks and things like that. That's not what Heptabase is for. Heptabase, in my regards, is just for personal knowledge management and nothing else. And yet, it merged so many evolutionary stages into one application, and I think that's really remarkable. So what's the future outlook? What do I think what happens next? I think the integration of AI won't stop. With each iteration, we will learn more and more how AI can help us to manage our knowledge and our information. And with larger and larger context windows, it becomes even better in understanding our overall knowledge base. No doubt about this. What I also expect is a lot more market consolidation, as we see over and over. The big players will swallow the small players and integrate this in their tools to become this ultimate all-in-one solution. ClickUp is very strong with this, Notion is very strong with this, but at the same time, there will be always niches evolving, having new innovation there too. And that's not only tied to note-taking apps. This is something very common in the economy if you look anything like engineering firms or pharma industry and things like that. I also think that personalization will play a big role. However, I think we will go away from this overkill, completely free setting up a tool to having proper frameworks and boundaries that allow us to personalize it within these frameworks. That makes it so much more easy for people to adapt. And Heptabase again is a good example there, where you at one hand very flexible, but within a framework that ensures that the app won't crash or everything still makes sense how it is set up. And then obviously cross-platform unity. Again, Heptabase is very strong in this. I can access it on my phone, I can access it on my iPad, I can access on web locally, and that's very important. And it was always an obstacle if there's an application only available on a specific device, and then the moment you need it, you have no access to it. I think more than ever, being a professional in this world is already tough. We have more information than ever, more work than ever. We see burnouts left and right, so it becomes even more important to get back on top of this game. It's no longer taking some notes in your little notebook, but understanding system building. And that's what we are here for. And that's how we prepare our professionals inside the membership for the future, no matter what tools come. And how is this possible? Well, through tool agnostic approaches. I mentioned the ICOR methodology earlier, and 2 courses inside the membership focus completely on digital note-taking and personal knowledge management in a tool agnostic way. We teach you how you can set up any note-taking or PKM system that you personally prefer. For example, Paco, he's not using Heptabase, he prefers Tana, but the structure inside his application is based on the My Life concept. I made a video about this on this channel too. And no matter what app will come in the future that might make me move on, I'm not scared. I'm ready because all I'm moving forward are my tool agnostic concepts and workflows, and not being dependent on what the tool provides to me. That makes you literally invincible, no matter what the market will throw at you or what your business will provide to you. We know many people are restricted when it comes to what tools they're able to use, but no matter if you're only allowed to use the Microsoft ecosystem, for example, and OneNote, this methodology will work for you to make you stay in control of your knowledge and become highly effective in leveraging it. So if you're interested to learn more, go to our website and sign up to our free newsletter, or join Paco and me inside the Paperless Movement membership, where we are personally there to help you succeed with your productivity system. If you found this video insightful, share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so I can catch you up in the next one.